young man with a twist of red moustache and a sombre air came out of the inner room. He also did not seem to be greatly enjoying the intellectual banquet within. "I think you remember my friend and secretary, Mr. Drummond," said Lord Beaumont, turning to Grant, "even if you only remember him as a schoolboy." "Perfectly," said the other. Mr. Drummond shook hands pleasantly and respectfully, but the cloud was still on his brow. Turning to Sir Walter Cholmondeliegh, he said, "I was sent by Lady Beaumont to express her hope that you are not going yet, Sir Walter. She says she has scarcely seen anything of you." The old gentleman, still red in the face, had a temporary internal struggle. Then his good manners triumphed, and with a gesture of obeisance and a vague utterance of, "If Lady Beaumont, a lady of course," he followed the young man back into the salon. He had scarcely been deposited there half a minute before another peal of laughter told that he had, in all probability, been scored off again. "Of course I can excuse dear old Cholmondeley," said Beaumont, as he helped us off with our coats. "He has not the modern mind." "What is the modern mind?" asked Grant. "Oh, it's enlightened, you know, and progressive, and faces the facts of life seriously." At this moment another roar of laughter came from within. "I only ask," said Basil, "because of the last two friends of yours who had the modern mind. One thought it wrong to eat fishes, and the other thought it right to eat men. I beg your pardon. This way, if I remember right." "Do you know," said Lord Beaumont, with a sort of feverish entertainment, as he trotted after us towards the interior, "I can never make out which side you're on. Sometimes you seem so liberal, and sometimes so reactionary. Are you a modern, Basil?" "No," said Basil, loudly and cheerfully, as he entered the crowded drawing-room. This caused a slight diversion, and some eyes were turned away from our slim friend with the oriental face for the first time that afternoon. Two people, however, still looked at him. One was the daughter of the house, Muriel Beaumont, who gazed at him with great violet eyes and with the intense and awful thirst of the female upper class for verbal amusement and stimulus. The other was Sir Walter Cholmondeley, who looked at him with a still and sullen but unmistakable desire to throw him out of the window. He sat there, coiled rather than seated on the easy chair. Everything from the curves of his smooth limbs to the coils of his silvered hair suggested the circles of a serpent more than the straight limbs of a man. The unmistakable, splendid serpentine gentleman who had been walking in North London, his eyes shining with repeated victory. "What I can't understand, Mr. Wimpole," said Muriel Beaumont eagerly, "is how you contrive to treat all this so easily. You say things quite philosophical, and yet so wildly funny. If I thought of such things, I'm sure I should laugh outright when the thought first came." "I agree with Miss Beaumont," said Sir Walter, suddenly exploding with indignation. "If I had thought of anything so futile, I should find it difficult to keep my countenance." "Difficult to keep your countenance?" cried Mr. Wimpole, with an air of alarm. "Oh, do keep your countenance. Keep it in the British Museum." Everyone laughed uproariously, as they always do at an already admitted readiness, and Sir Walter, turning suddenly purple, shouted out, "Do you know who you are talking to with your confounded tomfooleries?" "I never talk tomfooleries," said the other, "without first knowing my audience." Grant walked across the room and tapped the red-moustached secretary on the shoulder. The gentleman was leaning against the wall, regarding the whole scene with a great deal of gloom, but, I fancied, with very particular gloom when his eyes fell on the young lady of the house, rapturously listening to Wimpole. "May I have a word with you outside, Drummond?" asked Grant. "It's about business. Lady Beaumont will excuse us." I followed my friend, at his own request, greatly wondering, to this strange external interview. We passed abruptly into a kind of side-room out of the hall. "Drummond," said Basil sharply, "there are a great many good people, and a great many sane people here this afternoon. Unfortunately, by a kind of coincidence, all the good people are mad, and all the sane people are wicked. You are the only person I know of here who is honest and has also some common sense. What do you make of Wimpole?" Mr. Secretary Drummond had a pale face and red hair, but at this his face became suddenly as red as his moustache. "I am not a fair judge of him," he said. "Why not?" asked Grant. "Because I hate him like hell," said the other, after a long pause and violently. Neither Grant nor I needed to ask the reason. His glances towards Miss Beaumont and the stranger were sufficiently illuminating. Grant said quietly, "But before you came to hate him, what did you really think of him?" "I am in a terrible difficulty," said the young man, and his voice told us like a clear bell that he was an honest man. "If I spoke about him as I feel about him now, I could not trust myself. And I should like to be able to say that when I first saw him I thought he was charming, but again the fact is I didn't. I hate him, that is my private affair, but I also disapprove of him. Really, I do believe I disapprove of him quite apart from my private feelings. When first he came, I admit he was much quieter, but I did not like, so to speak, the moral swell of him. Then that jolly old Sir Walter Cholmondeliegh got introduced to us, and this fellow, by his cheap jack wit, began to score off the old man in the way he does now. Then I felt that he must be a bad lot. It must be bad to fight the old and the kindly. And he fights the poor old chap savagely, unceasingly, as if he hated old age and kindliness. Take, if you want it, the evidence of a prejudiced witness. I admit that I hate the man because a certain person admires him, but I believe that apart from that I should hate the man because old Sir Walter hates him." This speech affected me with a genuine sense of esteem and pity for the young man. That is, of pity for him because of his obviously hopeless worship of Miss Beaumont, and of esteem for him because of the direct, realistic account of the history of Wimpole which he had given. Still, I was sorry that he seemed so steadily set against the man, and could not help referring it to an instinct of his personal relations, however nobly disguised from himself. In the middle of these meditations, Grant whispered in my ear what was perhaps the most startling of all interruptions. "In the name of God, let's get away." I have never known exactly in how odd a way this odd old man affected me. I only know that for some reason or other he so affected me that I was, within a few minutes, in the street outside. "This," he said, "is a beastly but amusing affair." "What is?" I asked, baldly enough. "This affair. Listen to me, my old friend. Lord and Lady Beaumont have just invited you and me to a grand dinner party this very night, at which Mr. Wimpole will be in all his glory. Well, there is nothing very extraordinary about that. The extraordinary thing is that we are not going." "Well, really," I said, "it's already 6 o'clock, and I doubt if we could get home and dress. I see nothing extraordinary in the fact that we're not going." "Don't you?" said Grant. "I'll bet you'll see something extraordinary in what we're doing instead." I looked at him blankly. "Doing instead?" I asked. "What are we doing instead?" "Why," said he, "we are waiting for 1 or 2 hours outside this house on a winter evening. You must forgive me. It is all my vanity. It is only to show you that I am right. Can you, with the assistance of this cigar, wait until both Sir Walter Cholmondeliegh and the mystic Wimpole have left this house?" "Certainly," I said. "But I do not know which is likely to leave first. Have you any notion?" "No," he said. "Sir Walter may leave first in a glow of rage, or again Mr. Wimpole may leave first, feeling that his last epigram is a thing to be flung behind him like a firework. And Sir Walter may remain some time to analyse Mr. Wimpole's character. But they will both have to leave within reasonable time, for they will both have to get dressed and come back to dinner here tonight." As he spoke, the shrill double whistle from the porch of the great house drew a dark cab to the dark portal. And then a thing happened that we really had not expected. Mr. Wimpole and Sir Walter Cholmondeliegh came out at the same moment. They paused for a second or two opposite each other in a natural doubt. Then, a certain geniality, fundamental perhaps